righty, so we're currently being recorded. And just going down our agenda, do we have any visitors today? Seeing none? Okay.
Oh, wait,
yeah,
I might not have.
You're a special visitor, though.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Oh, yes, all right.
I'm learning here.
That's all right. I had to adjust my my screen to see accordingly. So we do have one one visitor here. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Please let me know if I do this wrong. We have a visitor, Vanessa Valdez. Welcome.
Also, Javier Mena also as a visitor.
All righty. So we'll just kind of go down the order here. Looks like we have input for future redevelopment discussion.
Hi, everyone. Oh, let's try that. That might be better. Good evening. Janine Lambert, Senior Development Project Manager in the Community Development Division. I hope everyone's doing well tonight and enjoying the rain that Tyler's so proud of. I just wanted to check in with you guys tonight. This is just really more of an opportunity for me to introduce the fact that I'd like to come to you to provide an opportunity to have a presentation and tell you about redevelopment generally, our work, and just the processes as well. But I wanted to, before I gave you a presentation on what I thought you wanted to hear, I thought I would check in and ask you if you have any thoughts on what you would actually want to hear, that I could make a really poignant presentation for you guys. So this is really just my opportunity to hear from you.
And I'll add a little bit to Janine's opening salvo. So Janine is a Senior Development Project Manager in the Development Division. And some of you may have met Janine over the last couple of years if you were on URAC. Janine, I don't think you've been into URAC here recently.
Not since COVID, yeah.
Yeah, right?
I've been quietly working.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Quietly is probably not the quiet term. Janine has been actually our lead acquisition of property in the downtown area. She's spent actually quite a bit of time in front of Bureau Board to talk real estate matters, and is currently leading the charge on the BC2 site, which is just south of the Round and south of City Hall, between Milliken, TV Highway, Rose BG, and Watson. I think some of us, as we've talked about this over time, you kind of get an idea of where it is, next to the BG Food Cartel. Along with, gosh, I'm not sure how many properties have been acquired here recently, Janine, but you probably know on the top of your head. And a lot of the hard work that Janine's been putting forth is actually compiling properties, small properties that can be put together for a larger redevelopment site. One of the things that Chase has been nagging Janine to come talk to you about is real estate manners, and we usually don't talk about real estate in URAC, as property acquisition is something that is done usually at the bureau level and at the executive sessions when we're talking about specific properties. But what Janine's expertise is, and I'm glad I have a chance to talk about this because is on the development side. And Janine was on the I can't think of the name of your company that you worked for here in town prior to going up to Linwood, but she's on the private development side of things and did private development, and then was working for the city of Linwood for a number of years before joining us here at the city of Beaverton. So yeah, I think what I'd like to kind of pose to URAC, as Janine has noted, is, you know, for as far as real estate and how real estate works and determining of property acquisitions, community engagement even, you know, what are these things that you would like to have Janine bring back to us? I think we're inviting you for the June session is what I recall, right? That she wanted to kind of put together an entire presentation and base it off of things that you're interested in. And so this is definitely your chance to throw some ideas at Janine, and then she'll be able to do a larger presentation, answering and gearing you up for some of your specific questions. So I'll leave it at that.
Thanks, Tyler.
You know what, I think I would throw out a couple of things. First of all, I want to make sure I say this. Like a bunch of the people on the screen, especially those of you who work for the city, are responsible for the great story in the Oregonian on the cover of the A&E about downtown Beaverton and all the great restaurants and all that stuff. That was beautiful. So whoever was involved in, I mean, everybody's been involved in that, but whoever was involved in, reaching out to the Oregonian or however that happened, wow, that's just really a great documentation of the work that a bunch of people did. And I bet it's going to bring a lot of people to downtown Beaverton. So, congratulations on that milestone. That's one thing I would say. And the other, this is now that was my nice thing. Now my controversial thing, and I don't know if you can say anything about this, Janine, but I know there's been mention about the influence that it has to have a couple of car dealerships right in the middle of our area there, and how that may present a large obstacle to some things that we might like to do in development. And again, I know that's probably a pretty touchy area, but I don't know if there's anything that you can say about it.
Well, I will make a note of that, and that's for our next presentation. I'm just here to gather the questions.
I would like to chime in too. Hey, Janine. I concur with Jerome. Great work. That article was incredible, and it's just a testament to all the hard work that all of you have put into building up Beaverton. I have one question. It's not really a controversial. It's more of a just curious, like with the market changing with COVID, or maybe it's not changing, but with the pandemic, are you noticing any change in like demand for commercial real estate space?
Well, that's why you haven't seen me on the BC2 site. So I'll get into that next month also.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'll quickly jump in here. I think Jerome may have already kind of said what I was already thinking here. Just as a quick side note, and I had some friends coming down all the way from Vancouver, up north of Washington. I told them, you guys got to come check out downtown Beaverton. They came down. They were floored by what they had seen. Very, very excited. So I can say firsthand, a lot of people were really surprised to see just how quickly things have developed in just a short period of time. So it really is a testament. When you have people who have been here for years, when they're gone for a period of time and come back and they see all the good work that's been done, I mean, everyone's going to be coming back down here again. So it's just a testament to how successful everything has been. On the topic of acquisitions, I think the first three things that came to mind was, just a brief list of what's coming down the pipeline. And then the second would be, how are we gaining community input for each of those properties? I'm sure each property kind of has a different, a different profile and who it's trying to service and what type of community it's actually going to receive input from. And then the third was, Josh already touched on it. Moving out of, hopefully will be a post-COVID market recovery, is what is the demand for commercial property, and what kind of businesses are we attracting to the area, and private investment are we attracting to the area? I think it's kind of a big question mark right now. So those would be the three things I would probably look at.
Thanks, Ethan.
I can go next if that's okay. And I don't know if what I'm going to say is related to what Janine, if what you can talk about, but I have always been told about the people, businesses in Allen Boulevard and how they cannot, or that there's something that they won't be able to participate in the tenant improvement grants or efforts, because they're afraid that maybe the landlords will increase their rents. So why not, if the city can acquire these properties, or if they have an area in the vicinity that they can actually develop like a business hub where they can offer the opportunity to these business owners to work from there, and then just so they can be relocated and force the owners of those properties to do something else with them. Will that be a possibility?
Great. I'm really excited to talk about Allen Boulevard, and I know we have a great plan that long range planning has done, and our grant program managers have put a lot of effort into implementation strategies there. So I'm going to circle back with those folks, and I'll hopefully have some good answers for you. Thank you.
I think Jennifer's got a question. Well, if there's nothing else, Janine, do you have any other comments, questions you'd like to pose?
No, I think that's it. And I just look forward to a longer, meaty discussion, hopefully in June. Thanks for giving your guys' input ahead of time. I wanted to make sure it was a really informative session for you guys and meeting your needs. So thanks for allowing me to come tonight. I'm just gonna hang on and watch the next agenda item if you don't mind.
Sounds good, Jana. Yeah. Okay, Nathan.
All righty. Switching gears here over to affordable home ownership and preservation and displacement prevention by Javier and Bennett. And I hope I pronounced that correctly. If I didn't think it correctly, please let me know.
It's BNF.
Bennett, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
And I'm assuming
thank you so much. I'm sorry.
I'm assuming Javier's name you can pronounce.
we did not practice this before the meeting, so we apologize for that. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what we're doing in terms of affordable housing and the conversations that we're going to have with council, and obviously that includes participation and getting input from the community, and that's one of the reasons why we're here. So we're very thankful for you making some time to have these discussions with us. We typically have had a 5-year housing action plan developed, and we were in the process of updating our housing action plan when we realized that there's a lot of things that have changed, especially when we talk about COVID, when we're talking about changing our council, that about 4 years ago, the city and through Tyler's and Cadence's leadership started some housing conversations, and that was a housing, and it was called Housing Talk Series, and a lot of it came out of those conversations. So we felt that it was time to do the same, to update those conversations. We have, again, a relatively newer council that it helps to make sure that we're all starting from the same level of understanding as to what's happening in the market, everything from homelessness to rental development, home ownership, home retention, and policy. And so we are engaging, like I said, our council, and we'll have four very specific conversations. The first one that we'll have on May 10th is about home ownership and everything associated with affordable home ownership, understanding the challenges associated for low-income households and communities of color to be able to achieve that dream. After that conversation, we're going to have in June, another conversation about preservation and displacement mitigation that's happening at all levels, from rental to home ownership to development mitigation. And then we're going to be talking about rental development. That's a big, there's a lot of need for affordable rental. So we'll have that lengthy and healthy conversation. And finally, we'll be inviting our partners from the county and the mayor's office to talk about homelessness. That's not something that a housing department that we lead those strategies, but we do support. And so we want to make sure that council and the city knows how we support and how that work on homelessness is happening and is working out. And then the hope is that after those conversations, we'll come back with council in the following session to talk about priorities. And, there's always limits and limitations in terms of funding, in terms of strategies, in terms of goals. And so that will help us get clear direction from council from that perspective of what are the priorities that council has in regard to each one of these subjects. And then talk about funding. That's the biggest issue. And then if funding wasn't a problem, then we would not be having this conversation. So, talk about how can we, what are the ways in which we can incent development and can incent affordability at homeownership and rental, how we can try to find a direct source for affordable housing. And then that will lead to the creation of our new housing action plan. So that's the overall kind of concept. And BNF will take us through those kind of first two sessions on, the homeownership side, and then definitely want to get your perspectives on the preservation side. So with that, I'll turn it over to BNF, and we're very, very thankful that she joined us about 6 months ago and has been
longer than that, Javier. 9 months.
Okay, 8 months ago. But anyway, so take it away, Ken.
Great. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Okay, I have a presentation here. Well, I don't think I got a chance to introduce myself, so I'm happy to do that. I'm BNF Valdez. I use she, her, they pronouns, and I work for the housing team. I'm a housing program coordinator, so I do a lot of engagement around our housing projects, and super excited to join y'all. This is my first time with URAC, so I'm excited to hear from y'all. And Javier is our affordable housing program manager, who's doing a lot of this work beside us. So yeah, today we're going to talk about the Housing Talk series, and Javier kind of gave a big picture view of that, but I want to kind of go in a little bit more specifically. So Javier did mention all the talks that we're having. So if you can see here, this is a layout of all those talks. I'm kind of engaging the community to hear from them in different ways. URAC is, one way, committee engagement with the Housing Technical Advisory Group, the Inclusive Housing Cohort, DAB, service providers, community partners. We're trying to engage in conversation about these topics. And there's also another way that we're engaging. It's through a virtual platform. It's called Story Maps. It's a really, interactive way. You can see what we've been talking about within the Housing Talk series. If you can't make certain sessions, you can actually see them there. If you want to share your input around some of these topics, you can share your input in there. I will make sure to share that link with y'all after this, but that's another way you can engage with this particular series. And I'm also encouraging people, if you know community members who a specific topic really is something that is meaningful to them or that they really resonate with, we are encouraging people to do written or verbal testimony. And there has been already a lot of community members interested. So that's another way to be involved, which is exciting. So the next one, which is literally a week from now, will be around affordable homeownership. And we have amazing community providers listed here who do a lot of this work around homeownership. And we're excited to have their expertise in the room, and also community members with lived experience who can talk about purchasing a home in Beaverton. What are the barriers? What are the challenges? What are things that, that really supported them in their search and in purchasing, but also like, what can we do better? And also hearing from service providers. So I would encourage y'all to tune into that. It should be an interesting conversation. Okay, so before I go into a little bit about some of preservation and displacement, oh, thanks, Chase. I saw that you put it in the chat. Thanks so much. So I want to do a little bit of Housing 101. Obviously, this isn't like a grad school course. So keep that in mind. But it is like a good way for you to kind of see what we're kind of trying to, what we're trying to engage City Council about. So one of the things that we support, and it's one of the providers that I mentioned in the previous slide, is Proud Ground. They are an amazing organization that provides homeownership opportunities for the community, and they work off a land trust model. And I'm going to explain a little bit about that, but I also wanted to give a little video just to be a little bit more engaging. I'm gonna exit out of here. Let's see if I can get out of here. And then I'm gonna share a video. If you can't hear me, please wave, or can't hear the video, please wave me down. But this is explaining a little bit about their model and who Proud Ground is.
Can't hear the sound if there's supposed to be enough.
You can't hear it?
No.
Yeah, can't.
I think I can figure this out.
Edith, you may need to reshare and then click that button
Okay.
that says share audio when you're in the sharing screen.
Share screen.
I think they just changed the setting on that, so it's kind of a little.
Oh, you got it. See if this works.
As owners, they can actually afford.
Is that better? Great.
And really help them become anchored in their community, able to send their children to the neighborhood school, plant gardens, have pets, and be really free of the rental market once and for all. We really help families that have been left out of the American dream of owning a home, left behind for economic reasons or public policy reasons, and really help them get a chance to own their own home at a level that's truly affordable to them. This happens by bringing government resources to the sale and closing the gap between how much a home costs on the market to how much a home is really affordable to the family purchasing it. One of the biggest barriers to home ownership is the lack of down payment. Our program brings that down payment to the table, calculates all the affordability components, including property taxes and insurance, condo fees if they're included, and really makes sure that the family can afford that mortgage at that level now and well into the future. We have found that for many families, the mortgage payment we're able to secure for them is less than what they would be paying in the rental market for a unit that's substandard for their family. Upon resale, that family gets a piece of the equity out of that home, but makes it affordable to the next income qualified family that comes along that would like the opportunity to be in an affordable homeownership unit going forward. The public subsidy that goes into the home stays in that home through the mechanism of a land lease or an affordability covenant. Permanently affordable homeownership for families individually is a game changer. It gives them a chance to truly begin to pursue all of their hopes and dreams for not just themselves but their children. We've done independent research that shows that children do better in school, employment is more stable, health conditions and indicators improve, and people are more actively involved in their community once they've been able to purchase their own home. Working families in this category have done everything right. They have a steady job, they have an income, and they have dialed in their financial status so that they can qualify for a conventional mortgage. That's the target audience to allow people who would never be able to afford the rising costs of homes in this market, but still honoring the market by purchasing homes at market value. It's the only concrete way to prevent the kind of displacement we've seen in gentrified communities. Proud Ground is a nonprofit. We rely on the support of public agencies, of donors, foundations, supporters, friends. Our homeowners pay a small land lease fee back into the agency to maintain that partnership I think there's a public perception that people think homeownership is just simply out of reach, or that we may be setting families up for failure. The truth is that we haven't lost a single home to foreclosure, and that's true throughout the entire recession, because when a mortgage is affordable for a family, they can sustain it. The need is growing, the gap is getting larger every day. We want to help meet that gap.
So yeah, I hope that was a really helpful way of y'all to see what Proud Ground does and the work that they're doing. I'm excited to hear about them next week, but they're doing a lot of great work around homeownership and preservation around the land trust model. So kind of moving us a little bit along, I want to talk a little bit about preservation. So basic preservation is making sure that there is successful recapitalization of rental housing, affordable, in order to secure long-term rental assistance for current and future generations, improve, making sure that properties are up to date through repairs, stabilize properties by placing them on a good financial footing. We really want to make sure that people, these properties are being preserved so people can take advantage of them, but also make sure that it's still affordable. And displacement. So I know this is with displacement, there's many reasons why residents may be displaced, and these are just a few. I know that I didn't cover a lot of them, but it's usually when they're forced to move out of their home for many reasons. There may be new development, and so it has to get demolished, and there may be eviction, whether cause or without cause. There may be like rent increases. We know with COVID, that was a very huge factor in people being displaced because people were not able to work. And we really saw that in the last couple of years. But there's many reasons why people can be displaced. And I wanted to talk a little bit about another facet of home ownership that we don't really talk about a lot, I feel, and we're trying to really preserve in Oregon. You'll see some of the numbers here show how very little this resource is available. But if you didn't know, mobile homes are really another way for people to be homeowners. It's really kind of engages the working class families, individuals, people with fixed incomes, very low income renters. It's a really great way for people who are low income, who are able to have access to home ownership. But it is very much a very limited thing right now. Right now we have only 242 manufactured home communities, which isn't that many for what can be brought to the community, specifically because it is an affordable way of living. But we do have 4 mobile home communities currently. And I think this is a big question that we're going to be kind of grappling with in our second talk, which is around preservation and what does mobile homes look like for our communities. And some of the concerns around this is rent increases, having that happen where the property owner is able to do that. Closure and redevelopment, that happens too. People sell the land for closure and redevelopment, or just infrastructure failure, not kind of adding to some of that displacement if that does happen. So now we're going to be a little bit more interactive. I want y'all to take some time to engage in some questions. If you can open up a browser on your computer and go to www.menti.com and use code 8627-5685. Would love to have you engage. You can also use your phone and take a picture of the QR code here and it'll pop up the link. So that's a easy way to kind of get access. And we're going to go through some questions, and I will stop sharing my screen real quick and then get us to, I'm having fun because I feel like I'm using all of this technology and it's great. And our first, I'm going to present here. I'm going to share my screen again. Going to go. All righty. So I'm going to go, oops, let's go back to our first question. So this is one of the first, I want to make sure I'm up to date here. Okay. Well, I want to engage with you. This is going to create a word cloud. So hopefully as things pop up, people will start, words will kind of start percolating in. But if you could own your home, what would that mean to you? If you do own a home, what does that mean for you, for your family? You know, what is that bringing to you? And what is that, you know, being a benefit to your family? So I want to take some time to see if we get some.
And BNF, are these anonymous or are they named?
They're not named. I can also stop sharing and I can read it off too. So let's see here. I'm going to stop sharing real quick. I just want to make sure y'all are. Stability. Someone said stability. That's great. Ooh, things are coming in. Yay. Let me share my screen again because I want y'all to see the word cloud. So we have comfort, security, happiness, investment. Yes. Yeah. We know that owning a home really adds to generational wealth, and that's important. Pride. Yes. Great. Love all these. Okay. Ooh. Wealth, freedom, contributor. I love that. And I'll save this word cloud because they usually are fun to look back on. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
And Carol had in the chat something as well.
Sense of ownership and belonging. Yes, I love that. Okay, so if you don't own your home, what does prevent you from owning your home? Or if you own your own home, what challenges did you experience when buying your home? And this doesn't have to be written either. This could also be, if you want to share out loud, that'd be great too. Would love to hear. But this is something that we know that a lot of people are experiencing, especially when trying to own their own home, that there are challenges that they're experiencing. And we just want to get an idea about it. Yeah. Down payment is definitely an issue that we know that it's a barrier for people. Yes, yep. That has definitely been a lot that we've been hearing is around bidding wars and how that can be really hard for people. And also, I don't know if y'all knew recently, but there's now a ban on love letters, which I don't know if you know what those are, but there were a way for potential homeowners to write into so they could, you know, have a leg up in buying a home and kind of connect with the homeowner. But those have been shown to be inequitable and also disproportionately impact communities of color because white homeowners tend to know more about these. So yeah, that's definitely one. Maintenance. Yeah, money to update it. Yes, complexity. Yes, we've heard that a lot for sure, is how to navigate purchasing a home is hard. And where do you start? And lack of funds. Yeah, something that I'm not seeing, but that I have heard is with loans, like student loans. That's definitely something that we've heard from the community, that can be really hard for people. Bad credit, yes. Racial disparities, yes. Very much ingrained in our homeownership history, is definitely disproportionately impacting communities of color. Yeah, these are all very good observations, and I really appreciate. Oh, yeah, I see a student loan one. Oh wow, I didn't know there was some rules underwriting. Okay, thank you for sharing that. That's good to hear from your perspective. Okay. And I know we're kind of doing some of this work with the Housing Options Project. If you don't know, we're trying to diversify the types of homes that are developed in Beaverton. But I want to hear specifically from this group, if, with very limited land availability and obviously rising cost, we have to be mindful of what we're building and things that can be a little bit more affordable. And I'm thinking, what is appealing to this group in regards to homes? There may be something on here that is like, no, why isn't this on here? I would like more of this in our community. Please share that with us. Yeah, tiny homes has been something that people have been interested in learning about. But yeah, these are definitely options that we have definitely heard from the community. If someone can share what other they're thinking, that would be great to hear.
I had just a question about, sorry, tiny homes. I know BNF, you just talked about that a little bit. Yeah, it would seem like that would be a really good option. And I know it's on here, but what kind of problems, or do you know, are those presenting here? I know I'm looking at the Portland model, there's quite a few.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I don't know if I caught the last end.
I'm just wondering what kind of problems or solutions tiny homes might present to the more traditional ones that we see here. That's kind of a newbie right, on the scene. And I know there's quite a number of them in Portland that I've seen. I even know someone that lived in one and talked about it, and they wanted to build more.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you have any more thoughts or ideas about those.
Yeah, I think I've seen it be successful. It definitely, I feel like the land is definitely needed for that to happen. Yeah. And what I've seen, it also has been in conjunction with service providers and folks who provide services. That's where I've seen it be pretty, resourceful, because we know that when people get housed, that doesn't necessarily mean that, all the issues are gone. And so when you have that wraparound services, that can be really helpful. But I don't know if Javier has any other thoughts around that, but that's what I've seen.
The challenge with tiny homes is that the question is, what are we trying to solve with tiny homes? And so it's more about that issue, and depending as to, definitely it's cheaper to build them, but if we're looking at that as a permanent solution, then we're looking at infrastructure, talking about hookups and lines and foundations and all of those things that make it, and then that takes away from the ability to be agile and flexible. So that's been the challenge with tiny homes. It's, can it be a quick solution for a problem? It can, but it's not a permanent solution. At least I have not seen that happen in other places. So the tiny home concept, it could be equitable to the mobile home park type of housing. That's pretty much what it is, right? And so that's the challenge that I see.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing that question up. Oh, and I don't think I had heard from someone who had shared other. Sorry, I think someone was going to speak. Was it accessory dwelling units?
I said other, but I typed in the chat co-housing as a model.
Yeah, I saw that. That's great. Yeah, I know it's quite popular in Europe, my understanding. But yeah, I have heard that that's also an interest of people. Okay, next question. Wow, I had a resounding no for this one. So for the land trust model, kind of what Proud Ground does is you are able to purchase a home, but it's the property, the land belongs to the provider, which is Proud Ground in this instance. And so you're paying less because you just own the home. But when you do sell in the future, there may be some limitations for how much you can sell. But it really does continue that process of affordable homeownership for the next buyer who tends to get that home as well. So yeah, I would love to hear from people more vocally. And I think that was my last question. So I want to stop sharing because I want to see all spaces. Okay, let's stop. Yeah, just to hear from you of like, does that model appeal to you as a community member? And why or why not?
I had a quick question. I don't want to take too much time on it though. In this model, Deanna, do you know the property tax, is that the responsibility of the homeowner, even though that they are not owning the property underneath? Or is that something that Proud Ground in like a land trust scenario as a nonprofit, that there is not the property tax on the
That's
ground?
a good question. Javier?
The owner does pay property tax, but I believe, but I'm pretty sure it is at a reduced rate than if it was a fee, what do we call it, simple fee type of property. But they do pay property tax.
It's good to know.
Would it be the full amount, or did you say a portion of?
I believe it's a portion amount. I don't know that for sure, but it will definitely, in our discussion with council next Tuesday, Proud Ground is going to be one of the participants. So we can definitely check and let you know. We'll find out and let you know what the factual response is to that question.
Great. If there's no thoughts on that, I'm happy to continue forward. But thank you. That was really informative. And I feel like every time I'm engaging in these conversations, sometimes I'm learning something new, or I'm hearing sometimes the same thing, which is a message in itself. So appreciate your thoughts. So I wanted to kind of go into a little bit about displacement. And this is very personal, but I want to hear from you and also from communities members that you are surrounded by, because this is something that we're really wanting to talk about in regards to displacement. Like, what would be your concerns if you were displaced from your home? And we really encompass home as being everything, where you live, apartment, house, mobile home. What would be your concerns? So that's the first question. And then also just kind of going back to knowing that there is limited funding, and we are still trying really hard to support people being displaced. We know that sometimes things are more needed than others, but obviously with limited funding, it can be hard. So what would be a priority for you around displacement. Just an FYI, we currently right now with the city, we do support community members with funding around repair and rehabilitation, rent assistance, eviction assistance, and affordable housing. We do it with community partners, some of that assistance. And so it is being done, but we want to hear, like, is there something else that we're not touching on, or things that we would want to see more of? So this is some options around mental health, rent assistance, home repair, utilities, eviction. What are we missing? And I'll make sure to put these questions in the chat real quick. Oops. I'm gonna stop sharing real quick. But yeah, just want to hear from people, what their thoughts are.
Hey, I think for the first question, I think one of the big concerns is the timing of the eviction. It really only affects, I think, month to month folks, but like I've heard of friends of mine going through this where they found out that their rent was gonna like skyrocket like the following month, and they couldn't afford it, and they therefore had to scramble to find housing within the next couple of weeks. And that is just oftentimes it did not lead to a good result. They either had to move out of the region, or they just found a really bad option. And so I think I think the homeowners have the right to increase their rent, but maybe be a little bit more understanding of the timing of it, rather than have 30 days notice, maybe give them like 90 days. Something like that, I think, might be a healthy compromise. But I think the timing of the eviction is critical.
Oregon did change, right, Javier? To 90-day notice on rent.
Yes, so they have to notify, and also they changed the no-cost eviction. Now they have to, after a year of renting an apartment, the landlord cannot just evict somebody because they don't want them to live there. They have to have a reason for them to evict them. But yeah, that changed about 3 years ago.
Well, great.
Yeah, we're learning that, there is some educational piece that's needed at times. And so we know that's definitely been important for us to engage with folks who do rental rights, with Oregon Law Center. We've engaged them a lot to kind of educate the public. So yeah, that's definitely something that I think more people, specifically when we're thinking about people who are more marginalized and may not know the resources.
And I think the other part too is for folks to have, I'm really glad to hear about the change in the law, by the way. Thank you for that update. But I think it is also helpful for folks to have options in the same community, rather than have to move 45 minutes away, that there are affordable housing options, or vouchers, things of that nature that are involved, that are in every community.
Right. Yeah. Thanks, Josh.
I think something that's not on the list is what happens with people's belongings when they lose their home. And I know that's a concern, and even having to pay for storage, for example, might put somebody in a worse financial situation.
One thing that comes to mind is, and I'm glad to see these services are available for people who are displaced. I can't help but wonder, on the other side of the coin, for the party that causes the displacement, is there any type of, kind of thinking about the economics of this, are there any punitive damages against a party that has caused economic damages to someone who's been marginalized? And if there's something in place to help to decentivize a certain decision that might not be in the public interest. I understand it's always on a case-by-case basis, but if someone is causing displacement, what are the purposes and the reasons behind it? I know, again, it's a case-by-case basis, but for those who cause that displacement, I don't know if there's any sort of punitive damages or some type of disincentive to stop some type of behavior that, again, it just would not be in the city's best interest. So I'm just kind of putting that out there.
Yeah, we do hear. Sorry, go ahead.
Just so you know, I mean, in part of the law that stopped no cost evictions, it also requires the landlords, if they are going to evict or give a notice to the tenant because they wanted to move out, to provide some compensation. Is not a lot, and you know, aside from the time frame, the 90 days, they also need to provide some relocation assistance. But again, anytime you're forced to move, you know, it's a traumatic event, and so it's difficult to even if you get limited assistance, to be able to find another place. That, you know, sometimes many people that are displaced are from apartments that need to be renovated, and so that if they need to be renovated, more than likely the rent's pretty cheap, and so to find another apartment that they have in the area that is as accessible as that, it's almost impossible. So those are the challenges associated, right? And so is how do we, some of the strategies that we can take as a city to mitigate that type of, I mean, we want the housing stock to improve, most definitely, but we want to, along with that improvement, to try to, as much as possible, mitigate some of that displacement.
Yeah, and I see a question here around equity lens, and personally within the city, in our division, we are always trying to use we have an internal process. It's called the E2P, and it basically allows us to use an equity lens within our projects or programs that we're utilizing. But another thing around assistance is, you know, currently in the last 2 years, we have partnered with culturally specific organizations who are providing assistance, specifically rent and utilities assistance to those communities that have been impacted, which has been an amazing partnership. And I really hope will continue. You know, it is sad that it took COVID for us to get there, but at the same time, this is an important opportunity for the city and also for other jurisdictions to, you know, continue funding those people that need it the most. So yeah, I hope we can continue doing that and kind of moving that forward in all the support that we give. Okay. Yeah, is there any other, you know, thoughts that people have regarding assistance that you would love to see more of, or just general thoughts? Devon, I see your hand's up.
Yeah, now that I've figured out how to do that. So I'm just sitting here thinking, and I know this is probably, the answer is part of what you've already answered, but it seems like that the sort of the unrestrained raising of rent is what causes the gentrification, right? Just like you raise the rent and they have, you know, it causes a displacement, right? That's sort of the bottom line, and it's not equitable. I don't believe in any way, shape, or form. So are there, and maybe this is my naivete, are there laws or how, you know, because that's really the bottom line, isn't it? The rent has gone up just astronomically so that people can't afford it and they have to move out. So yeah, we find options, but isn't really the bottom line this unrestrained rent raising, basically? So I don't know. What are your thoughts about that? How's that? I'll leave it.
Well, it's a challenge, right? I mean, the whole purpose we have the urban renewal area is because we want, you know, improvements, right? We want revitalization of an area that has been economically underserved or underperforming. And so the goal is, you invest these resources and that helps the area to improve and revitalize. What happens when you have that is, then all of a sudden costs go up, and those that were living in the area all of a sudden are finding themselves out of the area because of the cost escalations. So, it's, and I don't know that anybody has in the world really found that perfect balance. And actually, I think there are probably some European countries that have where, the perfect balance where there is incent to develop, but at the same time preserve the uniqueness of the areas. But we haven't, and so those are the challenges. I mean, you have example after example, whether it's New York, Portland, LA, where a lot of money has been invested and all of a sudden people are moved out and it becomes a completely inaccessible area. We're trying to do something like that with a downtown equity strategy. That, we're trying to be more thoughtful about, especially in the urban renewal area, of not only promoting the development of the area, but also be thoughtful about how do we engage the impacted community and try to provide options and opportunities for those communities to also thrive under this environment.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you for saying that, Javier. Sorry to interrupt, but just to add on to what you just said, or maybe just throw this thought out there. Maybe you can bring it up to the mayor and the city councilors and everybody at the government. But isn't in a way the government participating in this gentrification? Because as you see the downtown moving into a different mindset of attracting other people to come here, aren't they maybe being the guilty party, as Nathan was saying, about causing these rents to go really high? Because if you go to the new apartments to have been built around downtown in the last 5 years, not even I could afford to live there. And I'm not saying that I have a lot of money, but come on. I have to be making $150,000 to live right there next to the city hall. So the city should probably look itself in the mirror and see how much they have contributed to that gentrification.
Yeah, that's definitely been something that out of downtown equity strategy that has come. We've had these questions and that's definitely, there's a part of play around how are we, participating in displacement. So I think this is why this conversation is there's so many elements kind of working against each other. But at the same time, how do we create those policies and strategies where we're trying to address that? And I think that's why DES has been, personally, I've been on that project and it's been amazing to be a part of it and hopefully make some change.
And vote accordingly.
Javier, maybe you can talk a little bit about the importance of affordable housing in the mix of market rate housing as redevelopment occurs.
Most definitely. Usually, and also just historically in terms of development, market rate developers are very weary of going into underdeveloped area just because of the math doesn't work in terms of getting a return. And so typically affordable housing is the first one that goes in and begins the recapitalization of projects. But there aren't enough resources that can go in to really provide enough housing for those that want to stay to be able to stay. And to your point, Tyler, nonetheless, being able to provide some type of affordable rental development, home ownership, it gives some type of options for those that want to stay. And I think being very direct and proactive in this approach is important, and not reactive, because once you become reactive, then we lost the market even that much more. And there's plenty of examples on that. And I think here with this urban renewal area, we are trying to be a little more proactive. I mean, we do have a couple of affordable housing projects in the area, and definitely looking to other opportunities. If you know of any landlord that owns apartments that wants to improve their apartments, we're happy to talk to them about, helping them do that. And obviously we would want to make sure that some of those units are maintained as affordable in exchange. So those type of conversations we want to have when we talk about affordable housing beyond the regulated, but also just on the market side. We're also trying to talk with developers that are looking to build market rate units, to see if they're interested in partnering with the city, making a few of the units that are being created affordable, and the city would offset those costs. So we continue to have those conversations. So all of that is not a lot. I mean, it's little that we can do, because there was a study that I just read from HUD that we are building, as in terms of the real estate market as a whole, quite a bit less of for sale units in the market in the metro area, which then puts a lot of pressure on the rental market. And so there's a lot of underdevelopment that's going on for the demand that's happening, and that's what we're seeing right now. But affordable housing provides that little kind of light of hope under this environment. And Oswaldo, to your point, the city definitely is part of that and of the problem. And I think that groups like this are important to continuously bring that component and saying, what are you doing about that? And put the onus on us to make sure that there is some type of a strategy, like the downtown equity strategy, to mitigate. We'll never eliminate displacement, guarantee, because the resources are not there to do that. But at least mitigate to whatever degree possible the displacement of those that want to stay. And we depend on people like you to put the pressure on us.
You're encouraging me to go to the gym, right? To be able to carry that burden.
That's right. That's right. You got to go and get those flats out.
That's an internal joke between Javier and I, by the way.
I do think that we do need to, if we talk about equity, we need to talk about that. We need to talk about tough issues like this, and not just kind of play with words and say, because we really do. If we talk about equity and how are we going to make this work, we need to look at some different criteria for other than just the profit motive, right? And I realize there's a limited amount and we can't do away with that. But if we talk about equity, we have to address this. So I'm just throwing my 2 cents in, and you've been saying it, I'm just agreeing.
This is a great group. I love that y'all are asking these questions because this is important. And this is another thing that we're trying to hone in on with the Housing Talk series is we really want to have city council hear from diverse perspectives, and I think that's like really what creates momentum. So I really appreciate y'all sharing that. Okay, I think I'm off to my 2 next slides, and I'm wrapping it up. Thank you so much for giving us the time here. I really appreciate it. I think I like allotted too much time. Okay, going back here. Okay, so what is next? I think what we've been talking about is obviously we're having community partners and members joining us for the next 2 talks. We have affordable homeownership, and we're talking about preservation and displacement prevention, and hopefully having really great conversations and really kind of teasing out some of the very much nuances of all of this. And City Council has a big job, but we're here to just kind of bring the people who are doing this work. So we're excited to kind of bring those people to them. So like I mentioned at the beginning, there are ways to be involved. If there's something that really is kind of tugging at you, like I really want to talk about this, and you get 3 minutes, you know, in the beginning of our meetings, but also providing written testimony. If you know community members who have really been wanting to get their voices heard, yeah, connect with me. I've been reaching out to community members one-on-one, kind of letting them know like, hey, this is something that's you know, available for you to share your story. If they want, you know, someone who they want to talk through their story or whatever that looks like, I'm here. And I will make sure to put some of the links from some of the information that I mentioned to y'all. And I really hope, you know, you take some time to join the Housing Talk series, and hopefully I'll join another URAC meeting in the future. But thanks so much. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Great job, Deanna. Thank you so much to you and Javier for your time. As Javier noted at the very beginning, the first series of housing talks the council had with Javier and Cadence a few years ago were really, really valuable. And I think it really helped council kind of understand the crisis that we're in. And this is the follow-up. And it's new council. We have new folks who are coming on board. We're in a different spot today than we were a few years ago. And folks like our advisory committee, it's really important to stay engaged. Take a look at what's going on in council sessions. May 10th is a big night for council and for BIRA. Downtown Equity Strategy is going to be doing an update to BIRA at 6 o'clock, followed by the parking update, and then it goes into council, in which Deanna and Javier will be presenting this housing talk series with our four different people, right, that are coming in to talk that night.
Yeah.
It's so please, you know, if you can't participate live, go ahead and watch it in a recording a little bit later on. But, great job tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great presentation.
Alrighty. Going down here, Jason, sorry we're getting, you know, a little behind there. But I have it here for an update on the 5-year BIRA plan. The word's all yours.
I'll share a little bit with you today, and then I'll also send the rest of my slides out so that you guys can review the rest on your own time, so we're not eating into your evening too much further. Do want to say right before that, though, how incredibly lucky I feel to be able to be working with the folks who've come and presented here tonight and the other nights beforehand. It's really great to be able to come alongside them and share all the things that we have going on. And I want you all to just be reminded and encouraged by the resources that are available to you. Please write us emails if you have questions or follow-up thoughts that come later. We're always happy to forward those along to any of the presenters who've come and talked. And hopefully then we can facilitate further conversations with your communities and people in your networks as well. So what I wanted to share with you tonight is let me make sure I hit the share button first. Here we go. Is kind of a draft layout and some ideas around our 5-year action plan for BIRA. So every year we put together this rolling 5-year action plan. So what that means is it looks 5 years ahead. Just see here. There we go. You're seeing the whole thing. Looks 5 years ahead, and then each year we move another year beyond that, provide more information as we go with it. A couple years ago, Bura and at URAC's recommendation, we combined our 5-year action plan, which has that 5-year look ahead, along with our annual report. So now they're one document that's published each year with what we did and what's coming up together. So just a little bit of a reminder, what Bura set out to do with the original urban renewal plan. These are the goals that we said: engagement, add value, business support, redevelopment, transportation, housing, arts and culture. Why do I share that today? Because I'm going to share with you a few more projects that are coming down the pipeline and that we're looking at. I want to see if these match up with the goals that we set out before us. In addition, we're at 10 years right now, 10 years of Bura. 10 years of our work trying to move towards these goals and accomplish things. And we've seen a lot of success. So what does change look like? Well, here's one example really close to home, Beaverton Central in 2011. And now, that's more of an aerial view. Let's see what things look down on the ground level. Many of you may know K-Town Barbecue, Korean barbecue, which went by several names beforehand. Recently got a storefront and tenant improvement grant and is now an open, fully functioning, I've heard quite tasty Korean restaurant. And that's one example of the many, many storefront TIs and street level improvements that Bura has helped fund. And then looking at things like where we all hang out, the First Street Dining Commons and the BG Food Cartel before and after. So as we're looking at these changes, we noticed that there were many sort of changes to even the approach of how we're doing our work. We're seeing things move from more informational to relational. So that's building and keeping long-term relationships, not just pushing information out, but hearing back and having that build on each other project after project. We are moving from more acquisitions to more the realm of redeveloping those acquisitions. Now, that's not to say that we won't continue with acquisitions, but the ones that we've purchased, we're going to start doing more and more of them. And then planning, like the downtown equity strategy, the DPMAP, all of these plans that we've had before, like the Creekside master plan, looking at implementing them and how we're coming along on implementing those plans. And finally, this may not be quite the right word, but moving from more reactive to programmatic. You know, seeing issues that are coming up and tackling one-off projects or project kind of after each other, to moving into being a more structured environment where the plans are really set down to be able to further the goals of Bura and the redevelopment that URAC advises us on. So in all of this that we see is for all Beaverton residents. So we're seeing these changes in our org as we move to this next phase for Bura. But we fully acknowledge, like we've talked about already tonight, it needs to work for all Beaverton residents, needs to be with a really clear equity framework, and we need to be able to apply that to our projects, not just in words, but in practice. So as we considered that, I looked a little bit back on what we laid out last year in our 5-year plan, and these were some of the strategic look aheads that we considered. You know, some of the things we've already kicked off, like the loop, First Street improvements, looking at expanding storefront and tenant improvements and updating that program, as well as affordable housing, you know, seeing the Marianne come online. If you haven't had a chance to take a look at that building, it is amazing. I was just in there with BNF a couple weeks ago. Well, for this year, here's what we're thinking of doing a little bit more. So instead of just listing, here's some bucket areas and a little bit of narrative, we've expanded the document several more pages, and we're including some timelines and some projects that we think are coming on the horizon. So looking at my time, I'm going to need to move ahead a bit, but I'll share these out with you, and please send me questions as they come up as you view them. This is a current draft form of what we would see in the document. I'd want to put these on one side and then the narrative that goes with it on the other side. So you'd see these projects and the timeline that we're thinking for them, and then how they fit into accomplishing our goals and how they grow on one another too. So one of the things that Janine will be talking about, and that is so important to our work and why we so appreciate having your perspective here, is that a lot of these projects have long timelines and they build on each other, from acquiring property to developing that property to having a master plan for an area to working on the parking improvements to then the parking garage that came along and the other changes that might be coming down the line from that. So wanting to more clearly communicate how they tie together and build on one another. So here are some things potentially coming up for the parking program. Real estate here. One that is missing on this one actually is the Beaver Dam West acquisitions, which we'll talk about probably more in June. Our community development work. This is almost one solid block for the next few fiscal years. Of just things that are often ongoing. That's what that little arrow means at the end there. Continues on beyond the end of that fiscal year 25-26. Oh, sorry, I didn't explain that up above. Those are the fiscal years of Bureau, so proceeding on from now to the future. Doing things like continuing tenant improvement, working on our arts and innovation district, and then more gateway and wayfinding work that probably will tie to our improved routes to parking and downtown equity strategy. And then the outdoor dining program as well. A lot of infrastructure work that goes into it. And as you are well aware, we remind Bureau each month too, we are also tracking a lot of projects that do not have Bureau dollars currently in them, but are critical and will make important differences in the urban renewal area. And then also seeing here, things like the creek enhancements in stormwater, housing, which we heard much more about today. Not as many specific projects in this one listed, but more the approaches and the ideas, including mobile home support potentially on the horizon. And then the administrative work that it takes to get it done. So all of this to lay out to readers and folks who get the document, all of the things that we do and how they are connected together. And then, like I mentioned, tying it into the plans. These are just a few examples of the mini plans that are on there. And then ending the document with, like we always do, a 5-year forecast. So this is what we said we're going to do, we're interested in. How are we going to fund that? How are they going to align with the money that we think is coming in and where we think it's going to go out? And just as a reminder here, we are supposed to spend Bureau's funding allocations by the time we get to the end of Bureau in about this guideline of 48% towards transportation infrastructure, 33% to joint investment that's working with private development, and then the other percentages you see there as well. All right, looking at the time, if there are any questions on this or how it matches our goals, I should be bringing a draft forward as soon as we get some more professional design than my layout looking on that. I'll stop sharing here now.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chase.
Welcome, welcome. All righty, seeing none, please send me anything. Nathan, is it all right if I do one quick update from the Bureau areas and then get you guys to your minutes?
You bet, yeah.
Okay, just like most months, we sent out the Bureau area updates with your packet, listing all the projects that we are tracking, or not all of them even, but all the ones we think you might be interested in the Bureau area. And a couple I want to highlight. Once again, please check out the Reesers performances in the center. Go in there if you haven't already. Absolutely lovely. I've heard some great stories of some fantastic performances that people have gone to. Want to update again about the BC2 site, which you've heard us mention, and Tyler outlined where that is, south of Milliken, east of BG's Food Cartel. Currently, there is another set of acreage, or half an acre, that's on that key corner right there on Watson, which is the Rasco site, which will be combined with the BC2 site once it closes and goes through acquisition. So some exciting updates there, some growth in that site, which potentially lead to more options, which I'm sure we will hear from Janine coming down the future. Last but not least, please take a look in there for some exciting updates about businesses that are coming and storefront improvements that are coming. If you get a chance to visit the businesses that got storefront and tenant improvements and see what the changes are, they always love to celebrate with people the new paint and retrofitting and things that they've got going on. And it's just a cool chance to see the dollars that you help support and advise going to improve the community. And final reminder, May 10th, Bureau is on a little bit of a different night than usual because of Bureau budget in May. So please go check out, tell your friends, watch it later, the May 10th Bureau meeting. There will be the Downtown Equity Strategy and the Downtown Parking Management Action Plan, who both presented to you last month. And I'm sure you'll be very interested in hearing what's going on with those. I got a question from Oswaldo. What is happening with the property on Western Ave on the east side? Oswaldo, I'm looking into that right at pretty much as we speak. You brought up one thing in my mind that actually is a new project that is added called the Modera Beaverton, but that's over on Broadway. That's a proposed 5-story, 312 unit apartment building. But I'm looking into what's going on in Western. I've heard that it is probably the same developer looking to build over there on the east side. Tyler, do you know anything more about that at this point?
I do. I'm just not quite sure if it's in the land use process or not. So I'm going to be
already been through
cautious.
the
Has it, Jen? Okay. Maybe you can tell us then, Jennifer.
east side of West, the northeast corner at Western and Fifth.
Yep.
Is a new apartment building by the people that do the Modena. Yes. So Mill Creek Development, large merchant builders. So
And is it looking to be mixed use as well, Jennifer?
no, don't get me started. I voted against the project, so
Okay.
maybe you should have Scott talk about it.
I see Scott there too. Okay, well, hopefully that helps answer your question, Oswaldo. I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't add to the project form coming up in ensuing months as we get more information now that it's gone through some of the land use. And that's all I got for you. Please send me any other questions you have, and I'm gonna hand it back to Nathan.
Yeah, thank you, Chase. Appreciate that. All right, just kind of going down here, down our agenda, we're on to the approval of the April 22 minutes. I don't know if folks have any proposed changes to that document. I had just one. Maybe probably to share with Kelly. Kelly, I was unable to attend the prior meeting, so I'll need to be removed from that top paragraph. From those who were able to attend. But does anybody else have any changes to the April minutes? I just lost you guys. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Sorry, my internet's cutting out here. It's been flickering on and off. I don't know if you guys are able to hear me or not in that last sentence. I just had one change to remove me from the folks who were in attendance for April. But does anybody else have any other requests? And I can't see anybody right now, just as a disclosure for my internet connection.
No.
Feel free to plug anything into the chat box. None? Okay.
That was kind of fun, Nathan.
Oh, thank you. Cutting out again. I have no idea if I'm online or not.
You're still good, if you can hear us.
I'm good? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear you guys. I can't see anything. So I'm going to presume there are no other.
We can
Now
see
we-
you now, but we can't hear you. I think you're muted.
He's
I think
muted,
he's also
froze.
frozen. Yeah.
Somebody else
He's
could make a
probably cut out, I'm
motion.
not kidding, half a dozen times. Who wants to make a motion to approve the April meeting minutes here?
I second that.
Okay, I can hear it. All right, so the minutes are approved. Thank you all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Before I cut out again, I guess we'll call this meeting to order, or I guess we'll adjourn the meeting. Always kind of blank on the correct verbiage, but we'll adjourn for today's meeting at 8:30 p.m.
Thanks,
Thank you
Nathan.
very much.
Thank you.
Nathan.
Thanks,
bet.
everybody.
I'll see you guys
Oh
later.
my gosh, great conversation tonight, everyone.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, it was a great meeting. All. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone, for your
you, everyone.
participation.
yeah. Thank you
Good
for all
to
your
see
hard
you.
work.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Carol.
Thank you.
Thanks, Oswaldo.
I don't know if the development side, is that the one across from Kaiser?
Yeah. Is that the one
where-
is that the one you're talking about, Oswaldo?
Yeah, where the bingo and
Yeah.
the garage. I went to Kaiser. That's my.
Hey, Kel, we're
Wait,
still
I'm gonna
recording.
stop recording.
Ah.